So I use a method and I call it the 1, 2, 3 method. And these are the steps. So step 1, you all know what text analysis question. I think it's 2D, where you've got to identify in 2 paragraphs, you've got to identify 3 strong words or phrases that are linked to imagery or mood or atmosphere, etc. You can look at it now. Locate and select strong words or phrases that express mood, image, state. Do not identify sentences. You only want to identify the essence, the strongest bit. A word, 3 or 4 words, not more than that. And then it's going to be a quote. When you quote, 1 quotation mark. 2 are reserved for dialogue. So you quote with 1 quotation mark. Step 2, explain the literal meaning, the actual meaning of the words. Step 3, analyze and explain the effect. This is the connotation, the suggestion between the lines, mood, tone, emotion, and atmosphere. Okay, so these notes are there for you. This just gives you a little bit more information. So why do writers use these words, these phrases and strong words? Because they want you to feel something, or they want to create a particular atmosphere. If they want you to walk into a forest and feel frightened, they're going to choose words and phrases that are going to make you feel frightened. The dark rocks loomed over the small man. Loomed. Oh my golly, I'm so scared. What's going to happen? Something's going to happen. They choose certain descriptive words, well-chosen vocabulary. You're not going to say he walked into the forest or he walked down the road. The little girl skipped down the road. The old man shuffled down the road. The athlete sprinted down the road. So you've got to think of much stronger words that create very clear images. So if I say the old man walked down the road, he just looks like an old man. What does he look like? What does the walking look like? If I say he shuffled, you now know that his feet are not being lifted up. He's probably making a little noise with his feet. He's probably a bit bent over with the walking stick. You've got a whole image because I used the word shuffled. And in the same way, if I say the little girl sprinted through the field, not sprinted, she skipped through the field. She's not just walking through the field. She's hopping and dancing, and I can see a little girl with her dress kind of floating, and she's maybe got a net chasing butterfly. There's a whole image that comes. So that is why they choose these words. They use figures of speech. You all know what figures of speech are: metaphor, simile, onomatopoeia, etc. You don't have to worry about punctuation in IG. I'm actually just going to put a line across that. You don't have to worry about that, and you don't have to worry about this. But imagery, yes. So like the little girl that's skipping through the field, what do I see? I see this little girl hopping up and down, dress floating, dancing, maybe singing. Okay, so this is my 1, 2, 3. 1, locate and select the strong words. 2, explain the literal meaning. 3, analyze to give mood, tone, atmosphere. Now, after you've practiced that, you've also got to remember that you've got to give an overview of the paragraph, and you'll see it in my example in a moment. Let's have a look. Read the following description of setting, the atmosphere, the place, the weather, etc., from Lord of the Flies. Select words and phrases and explain how the writer created effects by using this language. In other words, what effect does the word or phrase have on the reader? The shore was fledged with palm trees. These stood or leaned or reclined against the light, and their green feathers were 100 feet up in the air. The ground beneath them was a bank covered with coarse grass, torn everywhere by the upheavals of fallen trees, scattered with decaying coconuts and palm saplings. Behind this was the dark of the forest proper, and the open space of the scar. The scar where the aeroplane crashed and where the jungle was, it obviously scraped away all the trees and the bush. So there's a scar where the plane kind of like slid down and crashed. Ralph stood, one hand against a grey trunk, and screwed up his eyes against the shimmering water. Out there, perhaps a mile away, the white surf flinked on the coral reef, and beyond that the open sea was dark blue. Within the irregular arc of coral, the lagoon was still as a mountain, blue of all shades and shadowy green and purple. The beach between the palm terrace and the water was a thin stick, endless apparently, for to Ralph's left, the perspectives of palm and beach and water drew to a point at infinity, and almost and always, almost visible was the heat. He jumped down from the terrace. The sand was thick over his black shoes, and the heat hit him. He became conscious of the weight of clothes, kicked his shoes off fiercely, and ripped off each stocking with its elastic garter in a single movement. Then he leapt back up on the terrace, pulled off his shirt, and stood there amongst the skull-like coconuts, with the green shadows from the palms and the forest sliding over his skin. Okay, so you can see I've identified some, it's not all, there are many more, some of the powerful words or phrases that either create a mood or a strong imagery. And I've taken, okay, so I'm saying to you, think about this. What are upheavals? So I'm not going to do this with you because I want to rather spend more time on the next one. Upheavals. So it said that the fallen tree, there were upheavals. So if the tree falls over, then the roots kind of pull up, and then you have a mound of like grass and earth. So there were these upheavals. What does flint mean? So if you know what a coral reef is usually offshore, and at low tide, when the sea is lower, you just see the surface of the coral. And that is when the waves kind of gently knock on the coral. And as they knock on the coral, there's a little bit of white foam. So that is flinked. Why does the beach look like a thin stick? Well, they describe there's this terrace where the palm trees are, then there's the beach, and then there's the sea. So obviously the beach is a very thin, skinny strip between the palm terrace, the grass palm terrace, and the sea. So it's like a thin stick. Point at infinity. If you think on infinity, it's like if you're in the desert, flat desert, and you see a road and goes and gets to a point, it sort of disappears there. But you know that it carries on. So it almost looks like it's just non-ending or unending. What is meant by the shadows sliding over his skin? So if you think of this boy is now under the palm trees and it's sunny and there's a little bit of a breeze, the palm fronds are going like this, and the shade is moving on his back as the branches move. So it looks like it's sliding over his skin. All right, so I've given 3 examples here. Here is my overview. The paragraph describes the heat and damaged landscape, creating a general atmosphere of destruction and smothering heat. Now, here's my first point. The 1, 2, 3 in here is my 1, it's my quote, it's my 2, it's my literal meaning, and the 3 is the effect. By using personification, when the palm trees reclined, the writer informs us that they were leaning at an angle. The image created is one of a relaxing and calm atmosphere on the shoreline. The second one, the decaying coconuts rot on the ground and contrast with the green palm fronds. The contrast jars the reader as one expects the shoreline to be beautiful. The shimmering water would blind or dazzle the spectator with its bright, sparkling reflection, creating uncertainty or curiosity about what is in the water. So here's my number 1, my quote. Here's my number 2. What does recline mean? Leaning at an angle. What effect does it have? This reclining seems like it's a relax, you know, like you're lying on the beach in a recliner, those like bed things on the beach, seems relaxing. decaying coconuts. Decaying means it's rotting, and it contrasts with the green palm trees. You know, the green palm trees, they go, oh, lovely holiday island, and then they talk about decaying coconuts. It sounds like, yeah. So the contrast jars the reader, shocks the reader. Shimmering water, number 1, that's my quote. What does it mean? It means bright and sparkling. And that reflection, you can't see in it. So it could either be uncertainty, a little bit of fear, or it could be curiosity about what is in the water. Right, so this we're not going to go through. This is for you to go back to. These are some of the things that are used by writers to create these effects, all those figures of speech and other things as well. All right, so let's leave that. Okay, so this is the text that goes with that question, that writer's effect question, language analysis, 2D, the dancer. This text is taken from a longer narrative, so it's taken from a story. Vida is a young girl with aspirations to become a dancer. I pause in the doorway and bite my lip. I got a letter saying I got through to the finals for the dance competition. If I win a place at the dance college, I finally say. Grandma retreats into the kitchen. She has told me that she doesn't think it's her place to interfere with her son and daughter-in-law. Pa's eyes rove from Ma to me. He's caught in the middle. Ma's diamond earrings flash at me like angry eyes. Vida, you need to study hard. If you don't do well in your exams this year, for once, my voice didn't stick in my throat. I am studying hard to be a dancer. I'm not planning to become an engineer or a doctor or any profession that Ma finds respectable. Ma launches into a lecture. Dancing is no career. You need to study something useful in college so they can get a well-paid job. I sigh unnecessarily loudly. My dance teacher isn't rich, but his house is larger than ours. Clearly, he earns more than Ma at her bank job and Pa at his library. Back when I was younger, I'd struggled to be better at school for Ma's sake. But numbers and letters soon grew too hard for me to hold, and I grew far away from them, and Ma grew out of patience. All my life, Ma's dreamt I'll do well at science and mathematics so that I could end up being what she wanted to be, an engineer. All my life, I've been waiting for her to appreciate my compulsion to do the one thing I excel at, dance. I think back to my conversations with Grandma. Steps came to you early. Speech came late, she'd say. She'd tell me how I used to heave myself by the restricting bars on my prison-like cot at 8 months, my limbs urgently craving release. I could shape thoughts with my fingers, she said, while words stumbled in my throat, losing their way before reaching my lips. My hands spoke my first sentences like lotus buds blossoming. They would shape themselves effortlessly into the hand symbols of classical dancing. Grandma always understood everything my hands said. My dance teacher sits cross-legged. Of course, you all know what this means, do you? It's a time shift. My dance teacher sits cross-legged on the ground, tapping beats out on his hollow wooden block with a stick. I leap and land on my sure feet, excitement mounting as his rhythm speeds, challenging me to repeat my routine faster. My heels strike the ground fast as fire sparks. Streams of sweat trickle down my neck. My braided hair flies free into the air, then whips sharply around my waist. Nothing else fills me with such elation as chasing down soaring music, catching and pinning rhythms to the ground with my feet, proud as a hunter rejoicing in his skill. This brings me to the hardest pose of all. Balancing on my left leg, I extend my right upwards in a vertical split. Then I bend my right knee, bring my right foot near my ear. Locking my breath in my chest to control my trembling, I push myself to hold the pose for an entire 8-beat cycle. A familiar thrill shoots up my spine. I enjoy testing my stamina, my balance. My dance teacher's stick clatters heavily to the floor. He claps spontaneously. Perform like that and you're sure to win. I can see tears brimming like dewdrops in his ears and in his eyes. 3 days later, I arrive home. Grandma opens the door. I can hardly speak. The judges love me. I have a place at the dance school. Grandma, I am so excited. Grandma hugs me. I am delighted, Vida. You need to tell Ma and Pa, but don't worry. I have been talking to Pa, and I think you can persuade them if you answer their questions sensibly and explain yourself. Okay, so we had to look at, steps came to you early, speech late, you said. She told me how I used to heave myself. I would say that could be one. By restricting bars on my prison-like cot at 8 months, my limbs urgently craving release. I could shape thoughts with my fingers, she said, while words stumbled in my throat, losing their way before reaching my lips. My hands spoke my first sentence like lotus buds blossoming. They would shape the blah, blah, blah. Okay, so those are possibilities. Now, my advice to you is don't just choose the first 3. Highlight all of them. Because if you choose the first 3, you may find that one is a bit difficult for you. If you choose all of them and say, okay, which one is going to be the easiest for me? You're going to give yourself a better chance. Then down here, I leap and land on my sure feet, exciting, mounting as the rhythm speeds, challenging me to repeat my routine faster. My heels strike the ground, fast as fire sparks. Streams of sweat trickle down my neck. My braided hair flies free into the air, then whips sharply around my waist. Nothing fills me with such elation as chasing down soaring music, catching and pinning rhythms. Okay, so there are a lot here. So here's my example for you. This is the overview of paragraph 9. Paragraph 9 documents how, even as a baby, Vida expressed herself through her physical movement rather than through language. Vida demonstrated her determination. Now you're going to notice that I'm no longer doing 1, 2, 3. I'm mixing up the order here. So you don't have to do 1, 2, 3. You can mix up the order. Vida demonstrated her determination when, as a baby, she would heave herself up when she was in her cot. Pushing her little body up would have taken great effort and strength, as she was only 9 months old. She could have been wanting to escape from the cot and find freedom, as the restricting bars kept her from moving freely and kept her captive in the cot. This restriction probably led to her being rather frustrated. While Vida found language challenging, her hands and fingers became her communication, as they were like lotus buds blossoming, as her fingers opened like the petals of a flower to communicate her gentle thoughts. And then the final paragraph, paragraph 12, shows Vida as a happy and confident dancer as she uses her body to communicate through dance and music. That's my overview of that paragraph. Vida's feet are as fast as fire sparks, as her quick movements touch the ground fleetingly and quickly with explosive energy. Like sparks, her feet seem to explode into different directions and suggest an uncontrollable power. This energy and power is evident as her hair whips sharply, slapping against her, reinforcing the atmosphere of power and speed. The effort that it takes for her to dance so energetically results in streams of sweat as she perspires heavily as a result of her efforts. Although she is dancing energetically, the sweat, so many typos, sorry guys. The sweat only trickles, creating a smooth and fluid contrast with the energy of the dance. Now you'll see in the second one, I've color-coded the 1, 2, 3, but in the last, I haven't done anything. So you can go back and you can have a look and you can see if you can do the 1, 2, 3 there. So, do you think it will help you if you go back to the text and identify your quote, and then your number 2 is your synonyms explaining what the words mean. So when she heaved, it means she pushed. And when she was captive, she was being restricted. No, sorry, that's the quote. When she was restricted, it kept her from moving. When she had little lotus blossoms, they were like little petals of a flower. So you must explain the exact meaning of the words before you give the effect.